for this, we're going to do an interest question from a previous question paper, but I did not get this from a question paper, so I don't know which question paper it comes from. I got it from the guide that was compiled for a self-study guide. I'm not sure the name right now. And by the way, thank you to the people who make these guides. They help us all. Mr. Moleko has 2 options for borrowing money. His uncle has offered to loan him 16,000 rands for 5 years at 18% per annum, simple interest. His bank will offer him a personal loan of 16,000 rand for 5 years at 16% compound interest per annum. So he's got to choose between these 2 options, and now he needs to know which one is the best option for him. Now, if you're going to borrow a loan and you know it's going to have interest, you want to take a loan that is not going to give you too much interest, because then the loan is expensive. But also you have to look at the time you have to pay. It might be easier to pay an expensive loan because they're giving you longer time. So you have to be careful of that. But when I look at this one, it seems like it's the same duration, 5 years, 5 years, same amount, same duration, though the interest is different. And also this one is on a higher interest rate of 18%. This one is on a lower interest rate of 16%. But so I'm also looking at the 18% is for a year. So this percentage is to calculate for a whole entire year, not for a month, not for a half yearly or quarterly. And then we look at the type of interest. This one is simple interest. So every time we calculate interest here, we're going to say 16,000 rand times 18%. Done for the first year. Then we go to the second year. 16,000 times 18% done for the second year, right? But then here it says 16% compound interest per annum, right? So this one also, the 16% is for a year. The interest is calculated every year also. So here we're going to say 16,000 rand times 16%, and then we're going to get the interest for the first year. But in the second year, it's going to be very different because we're going to look at the balance. We're going to say 16,000 rand plus the amount we got when we calculated interest, and then we're going to get the balance for the second year. Then we calculate interest. Now, you might, for some of us who have changed from pure maths and now are doing maths literacy, you might be aware that you can calculate compound interest with a formula. In maths literacy, it's not allowed. You're just not allowed to do it. You are supposed to use a manual method. So you're supposed to use the year-to-year calculation. Don't use the formula. Never mind the formula, okay? It's okay if you know the formula. There's nothing wrong with it. You can even use it to quickly check if you've made all your calculations correctly. But you know that if you use a formula here, it will not be marked. So you are not supposed to use a formula on maths literacy. You're supposed to do it manually, right? Showing all calculations, determine the option that will be best for Mr. Moleko. So 10 marks. This is 10 marks. Why can't it show? Is it showing? Oh, it's showing. It's 10 marks. So it's a lot of calculations that are expected from us. So let's just get started. So we're going to start with the first one where it says 18% per annum, simple interest. We're going to do the calculations for that and see how much he's going to pay on that, right? So I like to make little notes for myself first. He's borrowed how much? He's borrowed 16,000 rand and it's at 18% per annum at a simple interest rate, right? And they want us to calculate what? The total cost of this whole thing, the total amount of this whole thing. Okay, let me just check if I got everything right. Okay, and then it says 5 years. I forgot the time frame there. It's 5 years. So this is also on a 5-year basis. So, all right. So now I want to make sure that everything I know. So I'm going to go straight to the interest rate. Remember, we said that is an interest rate. So I'm going to start with the first year. I'm going to find out how much is my interest. which is, this is simple interest, right? So we're going to just use the 16,000 rand. We're not going to care about what else happened, and we're going to multiply that by 18% per annum, and then we're going to get our answer. All right, so the interest on the first year is going to be 2,880. Just make sure you did your calculations correctly by double checking, and then we're going to move on to the second. Remember, we said this is simple interest, so we're not worried about the interest that we got the year before. We're just going to calculate interest on, the capital, or the borrowed amount, or the principal amount, if you like. All those terms apply properly. So on the second one, I know that it's going to be 2,880. I've used exactly the same amount. So also, I don't even need to calculate it for the third. I know it's going to be 2,880. Even on the fourth one, it's going to be 2,880 because we do the exact same thing. And we're going to do it 5 times. And therefore, 2,000. Well, you do it. I'm being lazy. Okay, so now let's calculate how much in total he's going to have to pay. Okay, so now we have a total of, he borrowed 16,000, right? And then in the first month, there was an interest of 2,880. In the second month, there was an interest of 2,880. In the third, 2,880. In the fourth, 2,880. In the fifth, 2,880. Of course, this is, we have to keep in mind that this is calculated without the payments, right? So, the total there will be, so this is how much is going to pay back, 30,400 after the 5 years have gone with the interest included, and that's what they want to know. So no, that's not the question though. So let's go to the second option he has, where let's look at the option again. So the option says here, his bank will offer him a personal loan of 16,000 rand for 5 years at 16% compound interest per annum. Okay, so now we're going to do the second option, which is compound, right? Compound interest, and the interest is at 16% compounded annually. And then he's still borrowing 16,000 at a 5-year period, right? Okay, so this one is going to be a little bit more complicated. Simple interest is simple, but compound is a little bit more complicated. Okay, so let's get started with the answer. All right, so what we're going to do is do the calculations for the compound interest, and then when we're done, we're going to compare how much is he paying back in the simple interest versus how much he's paying back in the compound interest, and then we'll do the final part of the question. So compound interest in the first year, in the very first year, what's going to happen is that we're going to look at how much we have. So we've borrowed 16,000 rand and that's it. There's nothing that's additional. So we're going to calculate the interest on the first year on that amount. Interest is equal to 16,000 multiplied by, we have 16% this time, 2,560. Yay! Offered the calculator correctly. Okay, so in the second year, now let's remind ourselves, we are working with compound here. It's not simple. We can't just take 16,000 rand and move on to the second year. What we do is we check how much is the loan plus the interest that we already got. So here we're going to say, okay, so we have 16,000 plus 2,500. So now we're just going to do the balance, which is equal to 16,000 plus 2,560, and then we have, so 18,560 is going to be our balance, and this is the amount we are going to use to calculate the interest for the second year. So let's do the interest on the second year will be 18,560 plus, times 16%, 3,444 rands and 74 cents. I did round off there. You don't have to, you can write the whole thing. $2,897.0.23 thousand. Okay, rands. And then we're going to calculate the interest. Here, interest is equal to, we say we use the balance always, 2,897.0.23 times 16%, and the answer will be 4,635 rands and 20 you have to pay here is equal to 28,970.23 last year's balance plus 4,635.24, giving us the last balance. That gives us 33,605.45. Right, now let's compare the two. So we have the first one where the interest was the total including interest was 30,400, and this one is going to be 33,605. So the simple interest one is affordable because he's going to pay back 30,400, and the compound interest one he's going to pay 33,605. So it's better if he takes the simple interest one. Of course, we are ignoring